Welcome to Good Follow presented by DraftKings. I'm Megan Reyes, and alongside me are Logan Hackett and Katie Novotny. So I know we're all still feeling fired up from the Olympics, and the WNBA is fully back, so we're going to start the show with a story that combines them both. By now, we all know the U.S. women's basketball team won gold for the 8th straight time in Paris, but the gold medal game was a little too close for comfort for USA fans, mostly because French star Gabby Williams hit some huge shots. And Gabby sat out the first half of the WNBA season to prep for the Olympics. And earlier this week, she re-signed with the Seattle Storm, potentially being a huge domino in the playoff race. Seattle are currently the 5th seed and are breathing down the Aces' necks. After watching her almost single-handedly beat the USA, won't it be fun to root for her now that she's back in the W?
Absolutely. And I love that now she's coming in with like more of a worldwide presence. Like beforehand, it was just, it's Gabby Williams on Seattle. Like you kind of know who she is, especially for outsiders, but she's coming in as like a celebrity. And
she's cultured.
She has so much more behind her. I'm so excited.
When I was watching the game, I was texting my friend during it, and I was like, dude, someone on this French chick is good. I was like, she is good. She's going to take them out.
Well, let's stick with Seattle for a minute. One of their stars, Skylar Diggins-Smith, seemed to go after Caitlin Clark during a timeout last weekend. Or did she? I don't know. Let's check out this video and we can see for ourselves. Okay, well, this seems a little out of character. What do you think happened here?
It's just competition, man. It's just petty after game bullshit. It's like, I don't want to shake your hand. Everyone's making mountains out of molehills. It's driving me nuts.
Mountains out of molehills. Okay, I like this.
I have the same view. Like when I was playing sports, there'd be sometimes I'm just fired up, like regardless of what it is. I'm just mad. Going back to the bench, and I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to hit somebody. Like, it's not like she punched or anything, but also when Caitlin was in Iowa, she was doing the same thing all the time, little nudges here and there. So I don't think it's that big of a deal, but everybody is saying it's huge.
I think, too, on the men's side, we see this all the time. And if anything, it's laughed about and it's like, oh, did you see that? You know, he didn't want to dap him up. And it's funny. But on the women's side, as you both said, we're making it more of a storyline than it really needs to be.
Yeah, because no one can just get behind women being anything but like demure.
And we will get more into demure later.
Yes, but it's like women can be whatever they freaking want to be. Let them be angry. Let them have feelings. Let them show their frustration. Like if you have an ounce of emotion, it's a whole headline. That's ridiculous. It fires me up, to be honest.
I'm not going to go on a full tangent, but it's like a couple years ago when Serena was very emotional during her match and it became a whole story. It's like they want women to be powerful and inspiring all the time. They can't be competitive and show emotion, but I digress. That's for a different conversation, a different day. We're going to stay here on the Caitlin Clark storyline because there's been some buzz lately around the sequel to the 2003 classic Freaky Friday starring Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan. And while Jamie Lee Curtis had a suggestion for who she'd like to switch bodies with in real life, and it's none other than Caitlin Clark. She said, quote, "I want to be Caitlin Clark for a day. I want to play basketball like Caitlin Clark. If you could switch bodies with any WNBA player, who would it be?" Katie, I'll start with you.
Well, I just came off watching the Sue Bird documentary and I just want to be her. I want to know what it feels like to be such an icon and a leader. And I loved how they emphasized how reserved she is and how outgoing Taurasi is and how they balance each other out. And I was like, I want to be the one that's quiet for once. Like, I want to know what that feels like. I'm so sick of being the loud, annoying one. And she's so graceful on and off the court. I would love to be her.
What about you, Logan? Who would you be?
I have two for completely different reasons. My first is Brittany Griner because I want to be tall. I want to see what it feels like to be that tall. I've literally lived my whole life being so short and only seeing like this. I want to see above it. I just want to be tall.
Your concert experience will be better.
Yes, literally everything will be better, I feel. The other one is Marine Johannes. She's not in the W right now, but she used to be on New York. She did the whole Olympic break situation with Team France as well. She is just so smooth. I feel like she glides through everything. Like her thinking is so fast. She's the female MJ when she was playing. So I would love to do that and just be her and be a phenom all-star.
I like those. That's a tough question. I don't know who I would pick. I think off the top of my head, Asia comes to mind. Also, because Logan and I are about the same height. I also would like to know what it's like to be tall. And then I think Asia really needs no explanation. Plus, she's friends with Usher. So there's that.
Let it burn, baby. Let it burn.
But for real, let's move on in semi-serious note. The Indiana Fever have Freaky Friday'd their way from a 2-9 start to being in the 7th seed in the playoff race. Do you all think that Indiana could make a run this year in the playoffs?
No.
Say it with confidence.
I think they can make maybe first round, and they'd be like the Cinderella team, and with the whole storyline with Caitlin Clark, that'd be perfect. Great. But they're not winning.
Fair. Okay, well then, let's talk about a winning team for a second then.
No, she's like, it would be a Cinderella story. I guess that'd be cool. Ugh. It's like, yeah, who needs one? Who needs one? It's so, I just love it. I love it so much.
Okay, well let's talk about the Liberty. They've been so dominant, and they've unseated the 2-time defending champion Las Vegas Aces as the favorites. And at DraftKings, they're a plus 150 to win it all. So do you all think this is a changing of the guard? Do we need to see the Aces win it for a third straight time, or will the Liberty win? And then on that note, do they need to beat the Aces in order to make a run for the title?
I think the Aces are so unpredictable because every single year they've just been, or I guess the past 2 years, they've been at the forefront the whole time, and now they're dipping back. But they're also the type of team who after this week could be like, okay, let's go win it. And they just go undefeated and destroy everything. I don't know. I really see New York winning. I kind of want them to win because although the Aces parade and championship celebration has been really fun, I want to see another team see if they could top that.
I love seeing a three-peat, but I would love to see. I just think they're sick, But we also love an underdog. We also love it. We also love change. That's what my social media algorithm is telling me. Change is good. So I'm down for either. But I think I'm also partial to it simply because of Ellie the Elephant. I'm just I just want to see her do the sickest thing in a championship game.
Let's talk about a little bit of change, and we're moving over to a different sport. We're going to talk about NWSL because we have a big headline this week. San Diego Wave have hired a new interim head coach after parting ways with Casey Stoney. They have brought on Landon Donovan, arguably the best men's player in U.S. history. So Landon recently coached San Diego Loyal, a professional men's team that recently folded and were competing in USL Championship. And he said that he's passed on 4 MLS jobs in the past, which makes this choice in NWSL and with the Wave pretty interesting. And I know fans are confused by the choice. So Logan, I'm going to start with you. What do you think of this hire?
I think considering they fired Casey Stoney mid-season, it's were they looking for a quick turnaround? I'm not too sure, but with that being said, his coaching resume isn't that great. The second I saw him, I went and looked. I was like, what has he done? Who has he coached? I need to see. There's not much. Even with San Diego and MLS, he was he went to executive president or something. He went from coaching to a front office role. So I'm interested to see how he's going to coach this team and what was it that San Diego hired him for with his background and everything. Odd time for it all to happen as well, but I don't know, maybe he'll just perform a miracle.
I don't like it. I feel like Landon Donovan, I was oh, it sounds like a heartthrob in a 90s sitcom that would tell me I'm pretty when I take my glasses off. All the stuff that I was reading up about him, everything feels sus. It's oh, he's best friends with the hiring manager, and he lives 10 minutes. He's oh, I live 10 minutes from the field, and I have a daughter, and it's okay, so it's like convenient. That's why you took the job. It seems like it's a convenient thing for everybody. The positive is like looking at some of the stuff that happened in 2020 and watching them like walk off the field when there was a racial slur thrown at one of their players, when there was a homophobic slur thrown at one of their players. Like that gives it a little bit of inspo for me of like, oh, like being a part of that organization stands for something good, you know, like there is like good in there. So I could see it maybe working, but I don't know if I would never bring a coach in that coach for a couple of years and then the whole thing folded and be like, we can do this. Like that's a crazy jump to me.
The moment Katie's speaking of is a couple years ago in 2020 when he was managing San Diego Loyal. There was a player on the opposing team who said a racial and homophobic slur to one of the Loyal players, and he absolutely did not stand for it, walked off, was willing to forfeit the match. There was a whole video about it too. So I think especially what the Wave have been going through on the front office side, I think Landon is definitely someone who will advocate for his players. And I hope that it's a move that is intentional and has the purest of intentions, and I really hope that it is to help grow the women's game and not just an easy, oh, I got the job that's 10 minutes from my house. And so this is a great new move for me. But we will see what happens with the Landon Donovan era in San Diego Wave. Coming up, Ros Gold-Onwude is back to discuss all things WNBA. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Good Follow. Joining us today is friend of the show and WNBA analyst, Ros Gold-Onwude. Ros, it's always so wonderful to have you on. How are you today?
I'm great. Even better being here with you. You know I love, catching up with y'all.
It's Wednesday, wine, and W.
Did you bring wine?
No, but we can pretend like we are.
That's crazy. And I thought we were going to have a wine sponsor by now, Megan.
We're working on it.
Okay.
We're going to get there.
Just wait. I'll put my mind to this. We'll have a W Wine Wednesdays for sure. You like that, Logan?
Oh my gosh, I'm so in.
She's in. Well, let's get into it, Ros. We all watched Gabby Williams almost single-handedly take down the USA at the Paris Olympics. Now that she is returning to Seattle, do you think that the Storm belong in the title conversation?
I think they are in the title conversation as far as talent. The biggest question will be, can they mesh fast enough? Because talent goes a long way, but so does continuity, so does chemistry. But one thing that she definitely brings to the team is more depth on both ends. She's a two-way player. I think especially defensively, that's a tough defensive lineup with Gabby and Ezzy and Nneka, because Gabby just, had a great Olympic tournament. She comes out as named the top defensive player in the Olympic tournament after winning the silver. So, that's a nice influx of that for this team. And the other thing I like about Gabby Williams joining the Storm, they all kind of have this edge about them. There's a similar storyline there that's like a chip on their shoulder. In one way or another, maybe they've been slept on or had an opportunity that was missed, or maybe they're misunderstood as a team. And I think sometimes that can be really something to lean in on as a team to have chemistry and bond.
And the Liberty just became the first team to clinch a playoff berth. At DraftKings, they are the new favorite to win the title, and the Aces are right behind them. This is a huge shift right now. Who do you have, Liberty or Aces?
Oh. Well, first of all, you guys know I'm very close to the New York Liberty. I watch them all the time as their team broadcaster and analyst. And my opinion in watching this team very closely is that today, as of right now, the New York Liberty are the best team in the WNBA. It's shown by their record, by the standings, but also by what you view on the court and watching them. They legitimately have 3 first-team all-WNBA players on their team. Full stop. Jonquel Jones, Sabrina Ionescu, and Brianna Stewart. 3 first team all WNBA players. Then the next thing, they had a nice litmus test recently coming out of the Olympic break. They played the Aces straight on. And this is the second time that they've now beaten the Aces on the road. But this time, everyone was healthy. Full rosters coming off a rhythm of the Olympic break. And I think what was significant for the Liberty to take away from that win was that they were able to show that they could be the dominators on the glass, that they were the physical team, that they were the team that could get serious and get some stops. Against the defending champs in the second quarter, they held them to 8 points. Like, that's the defending champs. That's nothing to sneeze at. So the Liberty really showed that they're a gritty, defensive, physical team, which I think is an important identity for them to have. And then the really important and final thing I'll point out for the Liberty is their depth is really explosive and has been a revelation this season. One of the biggest X factors they have outside of the star power that they have is that players like Kayla Thornton and Leonie Phoebish are role players that could come off the bench. They could start if you need them. They're both huge, like got a lot of size and length and physicality on defense, and on offense, they're playmakers. They could stretch the court. They could shoot the three. In fact, the entire Liberty bench, y'all, is very big in general. You got Kennedy Burke coming off the bench. She's big and versatile. You got Niara Sabali, who is healthy and big and versatile and high IQ. That's a lot of depth, size, toughness, all up and down the Liberty roster. I think they are, at this very moment, the best team in the W.
Last week on the show, I asked Logan at this point in the season who she thinks would win the championship, and she said the Liberty.
Oh, so you, like, what are your thoughts? Why?
Oh, I completely agree. I think they're just like, they're having their season and they're fully dominating. And even just watching them play, it's like, they look like a completely different team than last year. But while just listening to you talk, I had the question, what do you think the difference is between the team last year and this year? Because the roster is pretty similar.
Yeah, I mean, they had the star power last year. So now it's about the continuity and the chemistry. I think when they fell short to the Aces last season, especially in that finals, I mean, the Aces came to the Liberty home court in Brooklyn at Barclays Center, 2 players injured and down, starters, and they still pulled it off. And I think that their chemistry, their closeness made the difference. And the Liberty didn't have that yet.
Yeah.
And now they do. This is a team that is super poised. Things don't go their way. They got the resolve to handle it. And as I mentioned before, their depth, their bench unit is an X factor. We didn't know what that bench unit was going to be coming into the season. We literally didn't. It was mad new faces on this on the bench this season for the Liberty. But what we're seeing right now, oh no, they for real. Those are some real players on the bench. The Liberty are so deep.
We know the Liberty may be the favorite, but we know the Connecticut Sun also will not make it easy on them. Ros, do you think that they can finally get over the hump?
Can the Connecticut Sun get over the hump? I think they have the potential to do it this season. I really do. You know, they've always been close. They're a team that can get to the semis, a team that's been to the finals twice recently. The difference has been talent. Sometimes they stall out on offense, and this year they have more of it, an influx. You know, everything starts and stops and goes with Alyssa Thomas and DeWanna Bonner, but they get back a healthy Bree Jones, who's had an all-star season. Big deal to have her back. The jump that my girl, Dejanay Carrington, is having this season in confidence and understanding, you know, how to impact the game and scoring on both ends of the court, offense and defense. She loves to be a stopper. And then now recently adding Marina Mabry, that is an offensive explosion for the Connecticut Sun. So you've got a lot of talent influx, and I think that'll help them. But I mean, ladies, we know when it comes to the Connecticut Sun, and especially in the playoffs, it's about style of play. It's about, they like to muck the game up, make it physical, play some hard defense, make it ugly. It's low scoring. And that's really tough come playoffs. But I think that could help them get over the hump this year.
Last week, when I asked Logan the question about who she thinks would win championship, and she said the Liberty, and then she, on social media in the comments, said actually she felt bad because she forgets about the Sun. So Logan, I'll give you this space as we're having this conversation on why you think the Sun are also a contender.
Yeah, I feel like they're actually quite slept on. Like, for some reason, they're always a team that I'm like, I don't know. You think about them a lot when you see them play. You're like, oh my God, they're good. But at the same time, maybe it's just me. They kind of slipped my mind. But I'm so shocked, and I think it's telling how good they are that last night DeWanna Bonner was coming off of the bench.
Yes.
And I just think, like, now they have that whole well-rounded unit, and they've always kind of been at the front, at the top, and like making the jump, but they haven't really come together yet. And I think this is their year to do that. If New York wasn't playing as well as they are, then I'd say that it's Connecticut's year for sure.
I really agree with the point about DeWanna Bonner. Her willingness to do whatever the team needs, potentially come off the bench. This is a champion. This is a veteran. And, just to like help the team figure out what lineups will help them best.
Absolutely. And I mentioned the Aces a few minutes ago, but I want to come back to them. They have the second best odds to win the finals, but as of recording, they're fourth in playoff standings, which is the lowest that they've fallen in a few years. And they just kind of don't look like the Aces that we typically see. Do you think we're watching the end of their complete domination?
Oh, the drama of it all. My goodness.
The hyperboles.
Jeez, Louie. Y'all calling on their downfall. That's crazy. Not the end. That's crazy. No, but I ain't worried about the Aces. I'm really not. I think the Aces are the Aces. And I think championship experience goes a long way. I think chemistry goes a long way. And we all know talent goes a long way. That core four, that's 4 Olympians right there. And they're led by the front runner for MVP. I think, you get to a playoff situation and that's still a handful to have to handle for any team. Where the Aces, I think, have some spots to worry is the same storylines we've had the last 2 seasons with them. It's depth. What happens after that core 4, and especially on the interior, Chelsea, Kelsey, and Jackie are tremendous on the wings and as guard players. But outside of Asia, there are teams that can put pressure on the Aces on the interior, as we saw the New York Liberty did most recently, thoroughly out rebounding them, points in the paint. I think the Seattle Storm could do that. I think the Connecticut Sun. So these are question marks. But one thing about the Aces, they love an us against the world storyline. Like, they love it. They feed off of it. They're probably looking for something to further bond them. They're still going through legal issues as a team, and we've been following the headlines with that. So never count the Aces out.
I literally said earlier in the show, they're the type of team where they can just have a team chat tomorrow and be like, wait, I think now it's go time. Like, let's go win this. And they absolutely will. Like, their chemistry is so good.
Right. It's definitely Asia in the group chat who's like, oh, yeah. All right, let's go.
Like, Olympics are over. Now it's time.
And then it's Sid in the group chat who like sends a meme to be funny or something.
Absolutely. I would love to be part of that group chat.
Girl, you and me both. We kind of are on Twitter because they're all really public about everything.
Their group chat's public. Well, the Indiana Fever have had a hot start to the second half of their season, and with the second easiest remaining schedule in the league, they could maybe make a strong run to the playoffs. What would you want to see from this Fever team, Ros, in order for them to make a run through the playoffs?
I mean, they just got to keep up the same momentum right now. They came out of the Olympic break really strong. And actually, the other side of the question is an interesting one. Like, do you want to see the Indiana Fever come playoff time? And absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like, first of all, guys, the historical significance of the Fever, this team making the playoffs, would be they haven't been there since 2016, since Tamika Catchings retired. So this young team with the wind in their hair, wind on their back, they're just high flying, playing with house money. Like, I don't care who you are as a top seed. You don't want to see this Indiana Fever team. And it's not just Caitlin Clark, who is their leader and will be devastating, has been devastating. It's also Kelsey Mitchell. You got an all-star player there. That's a bucket. Aaliyah Boston looks improved. I mean, this is a former number 1 pick, and her and Caitlin are in tandem, looking more and more in rhythm. This team plays fast. They play free. They're a lot of fun. And think about this scenario too with the WNBA playoffs. So the top seed gets the first 2 games at home, but then God forbid that top seed splits with the Indiana Fever. And then you got to go home for that decisive 3rd game to Indiana on their home court with all of those Caitlin Clark crazies, and it's going to be a capacity standing room only crowd. It's going to be pandemonium in Indiana. Should they make it to the playoffs and force a game 3 against a top seed, it's going to be nuts. And I don't care who you are as a top seed. Any of them top seeds don't want to see that.
Oh, so you have them as a dark horse. Do not sleep on Indiana is what Ros is saying.
No, I mean, if they make it into the playoffs is what I'm saying, that I would hate to see them.
Another component is like playoff Caitlin Clark is a different breed. I mean, we saw it when she was in college. She just turns into a different human being, a different player. And like, yeah, she's had so much pressure on her throughout the season, but it's playoff time. And if she wants to literally get it done, she could probably like do it. Same with Aaliyah Boston, honestly. We've seen it happen, but they've just kind of needed the moment to do it in the W. And I think as you said, it would be incredible. And for it to be at home, I could not imagine.
And even that skips a step too, because technically, if they make it to the playoffs, they could win a best of 3 series by winning the first 2 games on the road. But that'd be really hard against an upper seed because they're fighting for a lower seed in. But so I'd imagine their best chance of being pesky would be to split the first 2 and then bring it home to that home crowd. And that's where the drama begins. Logan, you like drama too, I can tell.
Love it. I love it.
I can tell.
And speaking of Caitlin Clark, she had a bit of a rough start to her career, but she's looked totally different since the W returned. After some much needed rest, do you think we're about to see her on a whole different level, even without the playoffs?
Oh, yeah. No. The Caitlin Clark is that girl. She is, and she's having a fantastic rookie season. And she is not hype. She's delivering. I think she's going to be everything we thought she's going to be. And I think she might even exceed our expectations. She's going to be a really special player in the WNBA. And perhaps, not being put on the Olympic team, being snubbed, might have been a blessing in disguise, because it really gave her the time, a month break, to first just gather herself, rest, and then work on her game, work on her body, work on her timing, work on watching film. And she's come out the gates and looked really confident. She's taken her team with her. The entire team looks more in sync. And, the one critique I keep hearing popping up about Caitlin Clark is, well, she turns over the ball. And I'm like, that is such a lacking analysis, in my opinion, because I'm like, it's so short-sighted is a better word. When you look at the overall positive impact she's bringing the game, and anybody who's played the game or watches it at a high level would understand how hard it is to be a point guard on any level, but certainly as a rookie in the pro league, turnovers were going to come with this. Not to mention, it's not just Caitlin who had to adjust and learn and grow. So her teammates did too. She didn't come to a team of stars and veterans. They're young. Their coach is only in the second year in. They had a whole new system. They're learning each other. They're learning themselves. And Caitlin is making all of that go. She's the one stirring the pot. And so I'm just like, y'all got to have some vision to see what was possible. Y'all so stuck on turnovers, but that can be improved over time and with work. So, Caitlin's on her way to being really special.
Well, we can use this conversation to segue into a topic that I know that you like to spend some time talking about. So we're going to get into it. Let's talk MVP. Asia probably has MVP locked up, but it is also impressive that Caitlin Clark is now tied for the second best odds of winning MVP. So you kind of mentioned she's not hype. Caitlin is who she is. She is that girl. Do you think it's fair that she's getting this hype? Or do you think it's because she's Caitlin Clark? And then the third question on that is, who do you think is MVP at this moment in time?
Right. So are you asking me if Caitlin Clark should be the number 2 candidate for MVP under Asia Wilson?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy. Listen, I just came off of a literal monologue about how great Caitlin's been this season. And I say all that to say she's not one of the top candidates for MVP, though. And I think my reason why is just team success. I think there's a great storyline. I think she's the front runner and has separated herself as Rookie of the Year. But I think that there are other candidates that not only have impacted higher levels of team success, but are also having individually great seasons. So, for me, it starts and stops with A'ja Wilson at this point of the season in, all of the ways on offense and defense that she leads this team with her game, but also as an emotional leader. Statistically, she's having a significant season statistically, which I also think is important in an MVP conversation in all of the categories that she's either 1 or number 2 in. And with all of that responsibility, still shooting at a high field goal percentage clip. Really impressive for A'ja. I think so A'ja, and then there's another step now for the MVP conversation. And I think the next rung is kind of the New York Liberty girls. It's Sabrina Ionescu, it's Brianna Stewart, it's Jonquel Jones. The hard part of that is, as somebody who watches the Liberty and covers them and calls their games, it's really hard to say just one or is the reason why, So it's kind of like MVP by committee there. So that's that kind of makes the conversation a little tough. I think right around here is where Caitlin could come in, perhaps as somebody who's in the conversation because of her importance to her team and the impact on winning. But the person that I think is not getting enough conversation for MVP, conversation is Napheesa Collier. You look at Napheesa Collier, she's been one of the high performing players in the W. The Lynx as a team are having a great season. She makes impact on both ends of the court. On offense, her versatility. On defense, I'll give you an example. During the Commissioner's Cup, which the Lynx won this season over the New York Liberty, it actually was Napheesa's defense against Jonquel Jones that stood out to me. It really limited Jonquel Jones's impact. And the Lynx have frustrated Jonquel and the Liberty on multiple occasions now. So I think her defense, and then you talk about most valuable to a team. So the Aces are stacked. The Liberty are stacked. But you look at the Lynx, that's a nice squad, but you take Napheesa Collier off the Lynx and they're not a contender. Game changer. She is so valuable to their ability to contend. So we need to be giving more flowers to Napheesa. That girl she's a bad woman. Napheesa, I see you, girl. You're doing your thing. People need to talk about you more.
And I like your perspective on that. And before we close, Logan, what are your thoughts on Caitlin being second in the MVP conversation as far as on the odds?
I feel like on this show, people are going to think I'm a Caitlin Clark hater, but I'm just trying to keep it real. I feel like we kind of put her on a pedestal too much. She's an amazing player. She's an amazing person. She deserves all the hype that she's getting. But when it comes down to it, her versus the rest of the league, I feel like some people are just reaching a little bit. I think second, is way too high. There's also the Rookie of the Year. And at this point, we know she's going to get it. So she's already getting an award. And I think there's just other players who are outplaying. Well, she's not missing out. Fans can't be mad.
Right. Girl, ain't you had enough? That's enough.
Ros, thank you so much for joining us on Good Follow. As always, we love talking with you and learning from you.
Oh my gosh, I love being here. I'm not coming back though unless there's wine next time. All right. That's pinky swear, because we've been manifesting our W and wine night for a while.
Thank you. Coming up, Katie, Logan, and myself play a new game. We'll be right back.
It's been a 3-year wait, but the Olympics are back, and the CBS Sports Podcast Network has you covered with everything happening in Paris. It's a new era for the U.S. women's national team, and Attacking Third will tackle all the women's soccer action. First Cut will keep close tabs on golf, while Beyond the Arc will follow the U.S. men's basketball team on a quest for another gold. And We Need to Talk Now will provide comprehensive coverage of women's athletes at the Olympic Games. Follow and listen to all CBS Sports podcasts for free on the Odyssey app and wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back into Good Follow, and we have a good follow this week, and let me tell you who it is. It's Jules LeBron, the TikToker whose videos explaining how to be demure and mindful have completely taken over the internet, our lives, and our vocabulary. And even the White House paid homage to the meme in an Instagram post. I thought we were still having brat summers, and maybe we're having both. But before we play our game, Logan, can you please explain to those who are not familiar or are completely lost what being brat and what being demure means?
All right, so Brat came from Charli XCX album called Brat, and it's pretty much being messy, being unhinged, but like in a good way, having fun with it. You have the mindset of being honest, blunt, straight to the point, kind of keeping it classy, like keeping it kind of together, but like in a very chaotic way. I would say I've had a brat summer. Missing an earring, you come home, your makeup is all smudged. Maybe you've lost a shoe somewhere. That's all about being brat. And demure is actually quite the opposite, but I want to let Jules explain it, so watch this video.
You see how I do my makeup for work? Very demure, very mindful. I don't come to work with a green cut crease. I don't look like a clown when I go to work. I don't do too much. I'm very mindful while I'm at work. See how I look very presentable? The way I came to the interview is the way I go to the job. A lot of you girls go to the interview looking like Marge Simpson and go to the job looking like Patty and Selma.
Brat summer and being demure and mindful taking over the internet, and now the two memes are going to collide in a new game where we're going to play here on Good Follow called Demure or Brat. And the rules are very simple. We're going to bring up a few stories that have been happening in the women's sports world and decide, is this demure or is this brat? So first up, we haven't talked enough about Reagan, the Australian breakdancer who broke the internet with her routine, if you want to call it that, at the Olympics. Some people weren't fans, but some were, including Australian UFC fighter Casey O'Neill, who broke out a celebration that paid homage to the breakdancing. I don't even know if you would call Reagan an icon, to the breakdancer. So let's take a look at this video.
Oh, what a moment for King Casey O'Neill.
Is the dance in itself and Casey's celebration brat or demure?
Everything is brat.
Yes, that is the best thing I've ever seen.
It's not mindful and it's not cutesy at all.
No.
It is not. It is not mindful. It's a very big choice.
We don't even have the time to get into the whole Reagan scandal, but we're just going to go with brat. Next up, we've all been following USA gymnast Jordan Chiles, who had her medal stripped and was given to Romania's Ana Barbosu. However, while the appeal is being sorted, Chiles has no plan to return the actual medal. Commentator and former U.S. gymnast Lori Hernandez has a different opinion, ultimately saying it's time for her to give the medal back. So is Jordan Chiles keeping the medal demure or brat?
I think it's brat. I think... what's her Lori is trying to be demure. She's trying to go down the middle. She's trying to be diplomatic. And Jordan's like, nah, this is mine. You guys messed up.
I think what the IOC did, the fact that Jordan has to give back her medal, it's giving brat. But the fact that there's also repercussions for not giving back your medal, I think you be demure, give it back. Just... I don't know. I don't even know how you deal with that situation, but to give it back would be demure. I feel like Jordan keeping it still isn't brat, but it's not demure.
Well, she's being authentic.
It's in between, because I mean, based on your definition, being brat is being a little bit messy. Yeah. And as you mentioned, there are repercussions if she doesn't, which includes the IOC potentially banning her from future Olympic Games and international competitions. So by refusing to give it back, knowing that that is a repercussion is a little bit brat. But yeah, I don't know where that one really falls.
It's a steep punishment for something that they messed up.
Well, let's move on. After winning the Cincinnati Open, tennis player Arina Sabalenka slipped up when thanking her significant other. Let's watch this video.
Happy to have you by my side, and of course, thank you. Special thank you to my boyfriend. I said boyfriend. Oh my gosh. That's my terrible English, guys. Thank you to my boyfriend to keep me happy every day. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Is this slip up, Brat or Demure?
I will say I've been a huge fan of Arena since before she was even like ranked within the top 50. I saw her a few years ago and I was like, all right, she's going to be the one. And every single thing that she does is Brat. She's just a Brat girly. Like even down to the Australian Open trophy pictures when she won, I think it was the year before last. She was like on a boat, like going through a garden and still like doing poses and like had the champagne. And like, it was so cute. Love her, but it's giving Brat.
Brat Summer for sure.
Even if it wasn't a slip up and she's got two guys on her call sheet, like live your life, dude. Like you're killing it. Brat all the way.
Consensus Brat. Okay. Next up, during a mic'd up moment, Caitlin Clark was heard hyping up her teammate Aaliyah Boston. Let's watch this video.
You're going to be amazing because you are amazing. Thank you too.
Is Caitlin Brat or Demure?
Very mindful, very cutesy.
Very mindful.
See how she hypes up her teammate?
Very. She's showing up to work professionally, authentically.
Very encouraging.
She's not like you other girls.
It's just so cute. I loved it.
Demure, finally. All right, we got one. Last up, let's check out this video of Kristen Press running onto the pitch for the first time after 2 years and 4 surgeries from an ACL tear. U.S. Women's National Team legend. Angel City essentially built that franchise around her, and then like 2 matches into their first season tore her ACL, is now coming back. Is Kristen powering through her adversity, Brat or Demure?
I just had I was going to say Demure. It's very Demure, very mindful of the fans. I mean, it's Kristen Press out of all people. But at the same time, I was thinking if I was in that position at that point, I'd just say, I'm going to hang up the cleats. I'm so sorry, but maybe it's not my time to come back and shine. So in that case, maybe it's giving Brat. She went through the whole 2 years of just trying to get back to this point, probably doing as much as she could. And she did still have fun. I was definitely keeping up with her. I'd have to maybe go Demure just for the fans and the Angel City part of it.
Yeah, maybe if she brought a giant blow up sign of her ACL x-ray tear as she was running around, that would be Brat. You'd be like, look at this shit, I came back. But it was it's very mindful of her past.
Well, this game was fun. We'll see how long this trend lives on. We may have to do Brat or Demure again. But coming up after the break, we talk the return of NWSL, and I give my DraftKings picks of the week. Welcome back to Good Follow, and it's now time for this week's DraftKings picks. We're excited to welcome back the NWSL season this weekend, and the game I'm excited for is Seattle Reign hosting North Carolina Courage on Sunday at 10 p.m. Eastern. This is a special match because NWSL and U.S. Women's National Team legend Megan Rapinoe will be the first ever Reign player to have their jersey retired. They host a Courage side who sit at 6 on the table and are well positioned to clinch the playoffs. And I'm picking NC Courage to reign on the party in Seattle. I'm also picking Courage's Ashley Sanchez as a player to watch. She has 4 goals on the season and leads her team in assists and chances created. Logan, who or what are you most excited to see as we come into the second half of the season?
I'm so excited to see Orlando's run and if they can continue to be the only undefeated team. Right before the break, we saw Kansas City lose to them, and that was just so big because they were both 2 undefeated teams. So I want to see, A, if Orlando can hold it up, and B, who's going to be the team to beat them.
Let's also talk about some of the better teams towards the top of the table. Washington Spirit and Kansas City Current, who you mentioned. KC was on a hot streak, lost to Orlando Pride, which is a bummer, but also 1 loss on the whole season is no blemish in your record. They play each other on Sunday. They respectively sit Spirit at 2nd, 3rd is KC Current. Do you think this match on Sunday has playoff implications?
It is so interesting because Washington has the same amount of wins as Orlando, even though they're in 3rd place. And for a while, they actually had the most wins in the league. So I think they're definitely kind of a sleeper team. They were a sleeper team and they're definitely up at the top now. When it comes to Kansas City, they are just so dominant and powerful. And with the offseason pickups, everybody's just a little bit better than when we last saw them. So I think so. For sure. And I think it's going to be so good and I'm so excited.
And they've had, I mean, yes, we've had the Summer Cup. And a lot of the players, they've still been training. The time off during the Olympics hasn't been time to vacation. Well, they have rightfully so vacation. But this rest, I think, will prove all these teams well. And it's almost, are we starting with a clean slate is what I think we're going to see. And what I'm really excited for is I want to see more Messiah Bright. So Messiah, speaking of Orlando, was traded from Orlando to Angel City in the offseason. And she had a hell of a rookie year in 2023, was nominated as Rookie of the Year. Essentially, she lost to Gotham's Jenna Niswanger, was traded to Angel City. And there was a lot of excitement around having Messiah in that Angel City front line. And we haven't seen that much of her, to be honest. Angel City hasn't really used her. And last week in a friendly against FC Juarez, she had a hat trick and was just in full Messiah Bright form. I can't even reach for it, but I actually have a Messiah Bright candle down here, like one of those like worship candles. I just want to see more of her in the second half of the season. And maybe it'll do what Angel City needs. But I don't know. I'm really excited to see how this shapes out. And on that note as well, Gotham has 6 U.S. Olympians on its roster, which is wild. 6 U.S. Olympians, but that doesn't even include the other international players that they had playing in the Olympics. Do you think they should be higher than the 4th seed in NWSL?
On paper, absolutely, especially with someone like Ann-Katrin Berger in net. And we just saw the run that she had at the Olympics was so good. But something about this season before the break, they just weren't clicking offensively to score the goals. Like their defense was there, but their plus minus was always like 0 or like 1. So I think when they come together and score goals, then they're going to be up there like really competing with Washington and KC and Orlando, but they just need to get it going. And I'm not too sure how they are going to do that.
So with the time we have left in the show, and while we're staying on this talk of soccer, I want to talk about expansion teams. The league has made it clear they intend to expand and add 2 more teams in 2026. Boston has already been awarded one of those 2 spots. And recently, Cincinnati met with the league to present their offerings for an expansion bid. Where would each of you like to see the 16th team added?
Toronto.
Of course you say that. I like that. Okay, Toronto. But wait, how does that work then with the new Canadian League?
Yeah. I mean, it could be like a little bit best of both worlds type situation. I think it'd be cool if we get like a lot of the Canadian players on a team and it'd be like a Team Canada thing, because I'm not too sure how many that are in the NWSL are going to transfer to the new league. But in all seriousness, I want to see a team in like Wyoming or Montana. Like somewhere with just like a beautiful backdrop. They could have beautiful jerseys. I've also just really been wanting to go to Wyoming and Montana recently. So those are at the top of my head.
As someone who grew up not that far from Montana, that's why I'm scratching my head because there's like absolutely nothing there. And they would have to have the biggest budget to pay players to come live in the middle of nowhere. Well, some of the other cities that have been in contention in conversation, Cincinnati, as we mentioned, Cleveland, Minneapolis, St. Paul, who have a USL W League team in Minneapolis. Atlanta and Denver have also expressed serious interest in expanding. So Denver is quite close to Wyoming. That could put you a little bit somewhat towards the middle of nowhere in a beautiful landscape and jerseys. Katie, who do you think, or where do you think the 16th team should go?
Based on the interested cities, like these cities, I think Minneapolis, St. Paul would actually be really good. Like that city shows up for their sports teams and they're a sports state. Like I think it would give them something I think they'd be really good fans. And there's like it's a great area. You have like you do have beautiful lakes and up north. And like I think that would be really cool. And it's like a bustling metropolis that just gets underrated across the board. So I think that would be cool. Cincinnati too, I think is up there. To be very, I think Denver gets too much. I want to see and I want expanded. I want something different. Give me something unique. I want it. I want it somewhere else.
Well, we're gonna stay close to this conversation and to the storyline throughout its process. But we're going to move on to our good follow. As we all know, The foundation of this show is that communities get built one good follow at a time. And each week, one of us highlights a person, page, or brand as the good follow of the week. And this week, it is Logan's turn. So what do you have for us, Logan?
So my good follow of the week happens to be one of my friends, Fiorella Granda, aka Fiorella Doodles on Instagram. And her work is just amazing. She's a designer / illustrator, mostly focusing on women's sports, and actually designed the first WNBA court in Canada, which is absolutely beautiful. Like when I first heard of it, I was like, what are we designing on a court? But it is actually stunning, and all the colors just go together. She came up with the whole concept herself, and her art is so unique. She does videos walking through like the creation process and just her mindset behind it. These prints are actually from her.
Oh, those are hers.
Yeah, they're so cute.
Up.
Yeah, and I have a few more that I'm going to start rotating out and everything, but she just has such a creative mind, and she's such an amazing human being, so you definitely have to go check out her work and her content because they're both just incredible.
I have a lot of white space on these walls. I'm going to look immediately. I love that.
So that's my good follow of the week. Everyone go follow Fiorella, aka Fiorella Doodles.
Logan, thank you for sharing your good follow with us. And we want to hear from our fans. Who is your good follow?
Send us your nominations at Good Follow Show and tell us why we should feature them.
Good Follow is brought to you by DraftKings. We'll see you next week.